Arthur Sterling sat in the back of his jet-black limousine, the leather seats cold despite the heater running at full blast. Beside him sat his 8-year-old son, Leo. To the outside world, Leo was the luckiest boy alive. He was the heir to a multi-billion-dollar tech empire, lived in a mansion with 30 rooms, and had every toy ever manufactured. But to Arthur, Leo was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Leo had been born deaf, and despite hiring the world's best doctors, speech therapists, and tutors, the boy remained locked in a world of silence. For the past 3 months, something had changed. Every day at 4 p.m., Leo would begin to cry. It wasn't a loud, screaming tantrum, it was a silent, soul-crushing weeping that shook his small frame. Arthur had tried everything. He bought Leo a private cinema, a miniature racetrack, even a rare breed of golden retriever, but the crying didn't stop. The doctors called it emotional frustration due to sensory deprivation. The tutors called it behavioral outbursts. But Arthur saw the look in his son's eyes. It wasn't anger. It was grief. The mystery of the billionaire's son became a tabloid sensation. The golden boy in a silver cage, the headlines read. Arthur was a man who could fix global markets and negotiate billion-dollar mergers, but he was powerless against his own son's tears. One Tuesday, the limousine was stuck in heavy traffic near a public park in a lower-income neighborhood, miles away from their gated community. Leo's face was pressed against the window, his breath fogging the glass. Suddenly, his eyes widened, and he began to hit the window with his palms, his chest heaving as the tears started again. Thinking Leo was having a medical emergency, Arthur told the driver to pull over. As soon as the door opened, Leo didn't run toward the playground or the ice cream truck. He ran toward a bench where a young black girl, about 10 years old, sat reading a tattered book. Her name was Maya. She lived 3 blocks away in a small apartment with her grandmother, and she was known in the neighborhood for her quiet wisdom and her habit of watching the world with intensity. As Leo approached her, Arthur's security detail moved to intervene, but Arthur held up a hand. He watched, breathless, as Leo stopped in front of Maya. The boy's face was wet with tears, his hands trembling. Maya didn't look startled. She didn't look at Arthur's expensive suit or the looming bodyguards. She simply closed her book, stood up, and looked Leo directly in the eyes. What happened next silenced the entire park. Maya didn't speak. She didn't try to hug him. Instead, she began to move her hands. It wasn't the rigid, textbook American Sign Language that Leo's expensive tutors used, it was something more fluid, more rhythmic. She signed a single phrase, then pointed toward a massive, ancient oak tree at the edge of the park that was being marked with bright orange X spray paint by a construction crew. Leo let out a sound, a choked, guttural sob, and pointed to the tree, then back to his father. Arthur walked over, his voice cracking. What is he saying? Why is he crying for a tree? Maya looked at the billionaire, her expression calm but firm. He's not crying for the tree, sir, she said softly. He's crying because he's the only one who heard it. Arthur scoffed, that's impossible. He's deaf. He can't hear anything. Maya shook her head and took Leo's hand, placing it firmly against the trunk of the massive oak. She then motioned for Arthur to do the same. He doesn't hear with his ears. He hears with his skin. For months, the city has been running heavy machinery underground to prep for the new mall you're building. The vibrations are traveling through the bedrock. To us, it's just background noise. To him, it's a constant, screaming vibration of the earth being torn apart. Arthur felt a chill run down his spine. He realized that the site Leo's window faced back at the mansion was the exact location of his latest multi-billion-dollar development project. The progress Arthur was so proud of was a physical assault on his son's senses. But Maya wasn't done. She signed again to Leo, a long, complex series of movements. Leo watched her with a hunger Arthur had never seen. For the first time in 3 months, the boy's tears stopped. He reached out and signed something back, a clumsy, hesitant movement. What did he say? Arthur whispered. Maya smiled, a small, sad smile. He said, thank you for listening to the silence. He's been trying to tell you for weeks that the vibrations from the construction make him feel like his heart is shaking. Your tutors were trying to teach him how to speak our language, but no one was bothering to learn his. In that moment, Arthur Sterling, the man who owned everything, realized he knew nothing. He had spent millions trying to fix his son's hearing, while a young girl with nothing but a library card had taken the time to understand his soul. He looked at Maya, then at the orange X on the tree. The tree was slated to be cut down that evening to make room for a parking lot. To Leo, that tree was a living thing that pulsed with a slow, steady vibration, a heartbeat he could relate to. Seeing it marked for death was the breaking point. Over the next few months, the headlines changed. The billionaire didn't just cancel the construction project, he transformed the land into a sensory-inclusive nature preserve. He fired the tutors who focused on correction and hired specialists who focused on connection. But most importantly, he set up a foundation in Maya's name to provide resources for gifted children in underserved communities. The story ends not in a boardroom, but in that same park. Arthur is sitting on a bench, not checking his phone or his watch. He is watching Leo and Maya. They are sitting by the old oak tree, their hands moving in a beautiful, silent dance of conversation. Arthur realizes that wealth isn't found in what you can buy, but in the silence you are willing to share with someone you love. He finally understood that his son didn't need to be cured, he just needed to be heard.